Hello, everyone. Welcome, homeowners, and those of you who are just starting out in the business as maybe a handyman, and you're beginning your career as someone that's doing some light construction. I want to talk to all of you about some of the basic features and benefits of tape measures that some of you may not have known about, but also I'm going to show you some interesting things that today's newer tape measures have, and I'm going to save or the best one for last that I'll show you at the end. And when you're shopping for a tape measure, each one has some different things, and you really now, after watching this video, will pay a little bit closer attention rather than just grabbing a tape measure based on price that you see on the shelf. You're going to now look at it and say, well, wait a minute, what does this tape measure have? What does this one do versus the other one? And then you can make your decision there. So I'm going to take you over to the workbench right now, and we can see some of these things. And again, if some of these are obvious to you and you've known these, hang with me to the end, because I'm going to show you some stuff that you might not have known, even though you may have been using tape measures your whole life. All right, here we go. Here are a couple of tape measures that I've had around the house for a while. I've got a lot of tape measures, but a lot of them are this style, where it's a 25-foot measurement. But one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that how the tape measure is constructed. So if you notice, it's got a curvature to it, right? You see this curvature here? Well, what that does is it's intentional, and it provides not only easy visibility when you're standing over it, so it's curving this way, so you can read everything better versus if it was flat. But this curvature provides stability. So when you're opening this thing way far out like this, it's not going to just collapse on its own from its own weight, okay? And so it will not collapse on its own weight here, and versus if you tipped it over, it's just falling down easily. So if it were flat, the thing would be too flexible, it'd be bending on you, and it's not gonna be helpful, especially when you're working by yourself and you don't have just a guy holding it on the other end. Most of the times we're using tape measures, we're by ourselves, not without any help. This curvature helps to keep it stable. Another thing that these tape measures have is the end piece here. A lot of these things have a little indent here, or sometimes they're serrated, and it allows you to scribe a mark. If you were measuring something out and you need to mark it, let's say a piece of drywall, a piece of 2x4, so you know where you're going to put your nail or your screw or whatever it is. The way this thing is designed, you can tilt it side on the edge a little bit, and it can scribe a mark for you. I think it just did it here. You can't see it on the camera. And if you'd like, I've done this with this tape measure, which is put this on the bench grinder, or get a small file, and just file this very carefully, not too much, just flat, so that way the edges have more of a sharper angle to them rather than be rounded. Now, of course, you don't want to sharpen this, because you're going to cut yourself every time you open and close it. But if you can put a little burr on it, that way it scribes better for you. Okay. Now, the other thing is that you'll always see this little hole here, and each of these tape measures have a hole, or sometimes the hole is bigger than others, and that's to catch a nail. If you were to put a nail, I was looking for my nail, and you nail this into a piece of wood because you want to be able to grab your tape measure and run 20 feet down or whatever it is, this will catch the nail head and it'll hold the tape measure for you. Now, if you're going to do that, you'll notice that you see the distance from the center of the nail to the end of the tape measure. It's about 3/8 difference. So if you wanted to start a measuring point here, you want to hammer the nail in about 3/8 closer to where the tape measure is going to go, because when you hook it here, it's going to be about 3/8 from the point or the center of the nail. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the other thing you can do, I'm going to turn the camera a little bit over here. So we've got a nail here down this end here. So I've already hammered this in. Now it's holding it, okay? You can also do is you can make marks with your pencil, and you can even draw an entire circle. Let's say I wanted to go 8 inches, right? Put this at the 8-inch mark. And now you can make an entire, if you keep it stable, you can make a whole 8-inch circle, 8-inch circle around, which would be a 16-inch diameter, all right? So if you needed to make a 8-inch diameter, you can hold this here at the 4-inch line and go carefully all the way around, and you're going to have yourself an 8-inch diameter hole. So that's the other thing you can do with this, draw circles. So let's talk about the next feature. If you notice, these tape measures always have this metal piece that goes in and out like this. Well, it moves 1/16 of an inch, okay? So if you notice, the tape measures for the first inch are always short. They're shorter than the distance between the 1 inch to the 2 inch. And that's, again, to make up for this gap here. So what this means is if you are putting you're putting the tape measure here, right? It's going to separate this piece and add that 1/16 of an inch, so that way you're measuring properly. Then maybe you're measuring up against the wall. It's going to push it in, and the distance it's pushing in is a 1/16, and so is the thickness here. So you can push it up against something and you get the right measurement, or you can pull against something and get the right measurement because of this movement here and the thickness of the tip. So the other thing I'll mention to you, and those of you who've been in the business know this, but you've got the markings in red for every 16 inches, because in construction the studs are typically 16 inches on center. You have this black diamond here, which is 19 3/8, because typically, roof trusses or ceiling joists are typically 19 3/8. Okay, so that black mark is going to be really for contractors that don't even need to know this because they already know it. But if you're a homeowner, this is the one that is going to be most applicable to you, because not because you're building a house and you need to know to put your stud every 16 on center, but if you are trying to figure out where the studs are in your wall, okay, and you know that it was built 16 on center, then what you can do is find the one stud, the one mark, and then after that, every 16 you can mark, okay, am I hanging a picture and I want to know where the studs are? If you don't have a stud finder, but you've found one of the studs, you can then measure off 16 and find the next center stud. And then again at 32, right? And then again, let's keep going, at 48. So that's where the studs would be, all right? So we're going to show you something else here on another tape measure. So this is a new one, okay? Now here, this is what this feature has. This one has a magnetic end hook. Here you've got a magnet. So let's go to that. I'll just take the nail I had in my hand, okay? So now this nail is magnetized. So if you had maybe you've got metal framing, or you've got even a nail or a screw, and you can't hook it or don't want to hook it, you can push this thing up against here, and then this will hold its position on the nail or the screw or the metal stud, because we've got a magnet on the end, all right? Or let's say you dropped your nail and you're up on a ladder, you dropped your screw and you've got your tape measure with you, you can go all the way down and pick it up off of the ladder. That's just pretty handy, so you're not coming down off the ladder to pick up your the nail or the screw that you dropped. That's kind of cool. All right, now the other thing I'll show you is this says it's got a 14-foot reach. Each of these tape measures have a different reach, and what that means is that we talked about earlier, when you extend this, it'll go 14 feet before it starts to bend and maybe potentially collapse, because that's about the weight of this tape measure could withstand itself for 14 feet before it starts to lose stability, okay? And some of the other tape measures are different. You know, the two tape measures that I haven't shown you yet, one of them's got a 12-inch reach and the other one's got a not 12-foot reach. Have I been saying inches? I'm going to correct myself. 14-foot reach and is what this is, and the other two I'm going to show you. One has got a 12-foot reach and the other a 15-foot reach. And again, that's if you're oftentimes doing long distances, especially if you're doing framing and you're up on a roof or whatever it is and you need the distance. That can be helpful for you, especially when you're not measuring something on the ground. You're up in the air. Maybe you're in a room. You want to measure one thing to the other. It gives you that stability and accuracy for at least, you know, on this tape measure for at least 14 feet. Okay, so this one we talked about the magnetic end and 14-inch reach. I'm going to bring this other one out here. This is a Milwaukee, and I said 14 inches again, 14 feet. So this Milwaukee is it's got a 12-foot reach, and it also has auto lock, which means this. So if you notice this one, you open it and it just shuts automatically. And the only way to lock, if you want to hold it, you have to press this button down like this, and it'll lock it. Okay. So this one is the opposite. This one is always locking. It's auto lock. So that might interest you. How often are you wanting to keep the thing auto locked because you're not holding onto the tape measure, and you can just do this and just do this and go a little farther and a little farther, and then to bring it back in, that's when you press the button. So you're pressing the button on this one, it's retracting it only when you press the button, versus on the other ones, and this one you are opening it and it is going to always retract unless you decide not to retract it. Then you push the button down and it holds it. Okay, so understand that this option is out there and available to you, and if that's a feature you prefer, then you want to shop for tape measures that have this auto lock. All right, now we're going to talk about another tape measure. This was the one that I was kind of saving for last, and I want to show you a couple features here. Okay, so this one is it's got a 15-foot reach. It's also got a magnetic tip, right? And you see here, this is open underneath, and what that does is it allows you to pull the tape measure out and kind of hold it with your finger underneath here. See? I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm holding it, and then if I can kind of release it with my finger, kind of handy, because that's where your finger would be holding the tape measure anyway. And so you can kind of, you know, gauge it yourself, and then it'll well, this thing should have been retracting better than it did, but it allows you this, because it's open underneath, you can hold it with your finger and kind of stop it instead of just engaging the button constantly. So that's a really interesting and cool feature. I like that. I talked about the 15-foot reach, and this also has a light on it. Okay, so this is pretty neat. Having this light, I don't know how often people are measuring in the dark. You know, maybe you crazy people in the bedroom, but you know, if you're working and it's getting dark outside, or you're in a poorly lit space, like you're in a crawl space, and you need light. It says 100 lumens. I mean, I don't know. I mean, haven't tried this in a dark room yet, completely dark at night, to see how much it lights up. I mean, maybe this thing can dummy for you a little bit as a second flashlight, or you're under a sink, you know, changing the P-trap or something, and it's dark under there. You don't even need a tape measure, but maybe this thing can be a little light for you. All right, so that's kind of cool. So I kind of like this idea of having this feature also. I don't know that I really need the magnet so much, but that feature is neat. The light is interesting, but isn't a deal breaker for me. If you think it's cool, then I'm going to put a link to this tape measure down below, so that way you can have an opportunity to check it out yourself and maybe buy one. But you know, one of the things that I probably should have mentioned towards the beginning of the video is that these tape measures all have a certain length to them, right? See this length here, see this length on this one here, see this length here, okay? And on the back, it'll tell you, you're never going to see it on this camera because it's the same yellow as, it's just a little stamp. In fact, I had to use a flashlight on it to see it, but it tells you that in this situation, the length here is 3 1/8 inches. So let's say you're measuring the inside, you want to measure from wall to wall, right? Or something, and you can't do this, because if you do this, you're not going to get an accurate measurement, okay? Because you're trying to guess where that bend is. Is it 11? Like, what is it? So what you do is you can measure from wall to wall, but you take this measurement here that you see, and then you add the 3 1/8 inches to that. So if it was stopping here at 12, and then you add the 3 1/8, you know that it's 15 1/8 inches from that end right up to here, because this is 3 1/8. So that's another feature that you need to know about. You can barely read this, and I know those of you who've been working with tape measures for a long time know this, but a lot of new homeowners don't. And this is definitely helpful rather than guessing, like I said, trying to bend this thing, and you're inevitably going to, especially if you're cutting a piece of wood to fit in there or something else, you're likely going to get that measurement wrong unless you're taking the exact measurement from the bottom and bumping it up against the end. So hopefully you found that interesting. I know that all these things are interesting to me because I'm a DIY guy. If you thought it was cool, hit that like button. It helps me, and it helps me rank better, this video rank better on YouTube. It also allows you an opportunity to refer back to it, because you just look for your liked videos and this thing will be in that list. But if you want to buy one of these tape measures, I'll put them down below in the description where you can grab them. They might be at your local home improvement store as well. So I appreciate you watching, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and just hit the bell notification so you can see the next video.